or detached from reality, I can go act out a first-person shooter with how many people? One person, as opposed to trying to gather some army and go lay siege to something. So, absolutely. Could an argument be made in the reverse, gentlemen? If we're using a virtual environment to act out aggression, in this case, could we say that actually violent video games are helpful? Because now I can go take out that aggression in this virtual world that, absent that video game, I might have gone out and taken out in the physical world. Like, for instance, I go boxing at lunch a lot of days, and I can go punch a bag. I do. Not my face, it's a bag. But I can go punch a bag, I can get aggression out, and I can come back and go right back to work every day. Could we make the argument that violent video games are actually good for children because they can go and act out these aggressive fantasies that they've got, or they, if they've got a propensity for anger or something, they can take that out in the video game world and not bring that into the physical world?
Yeah, good. Like I use like music or something like that as
right.
like escape or something like that.
Jonah, what do you think?
There have been a few studies and doctors in that field that have agreed with that. I don't know if I necessarily would agree that it's a positive good thing.
Okay.
That's just my personal opinion.
Cool.
I wouldn't have a 5-year-old child play Call of Duty. Perhaps Wii boxing.
Right.
That was
Wii
a stress
boxing.
relief for me when I was a child.
Okay.
I guess the stress relief could scale. Like, it's not just like, oh, throw them into a first-person shooter, or people make, like, a therapist could be like, oh, here's this therapeutic game that whatever psychologists, we can, I don't know.
So within parameters, maybe.
Yeah, I wouldn't throw a 5-year-old into a violent, like overly violent video game. That's something stressful.
So let me ask you this, and I don't know a lot about the current video games like a Call of Duty. I'm assuming that each of you has played some first-person shooter game in your teen years. When you get done with that video game, if you've binge played Call of Duty or something similar, and you get done, do you feel like you might be more amped up, more violent, more excited, more whatever, or do you feel like you're, oh, I've gotten my aggression out in that game, and now I'm just chill, I want to go take a nap?
I kind of feel the same, honestly.
Okay, no different than when you started the game then. Okay, what about you, Jonah?
Yeah, I kind of agree. It wouldn't really have either polarizing effect, I guess.
Okay, cool.
When I'm particularly angry or worked up, I find myself more calm.
Okay.
When I've relieved some stress, I might be more hungry.
What do you think it does with children in desensitization?
I feel like desensitization is a thing, but it's not like people don't get desensitized to this kind of thing. Normally, like right now, sadly, we've seen kind of a desensitization in the news with the school shootings. When it first kind of started this year, it was like, oh my gosh, look at this school shooting, and now it's like, oh, another one.
Is that a bad thing?
Definitely, yes, but it's inevitable, all forms of media.
So if we're already getting it from our news, do we need to have our entertainment reinforcing that?
I mean, I'm not desensitized to an alien invasion because I've seen it in Independence Day. It would still be shocking.
Well, let me tell you about an experience I had about 4 years ago with a student. She was a student here at LCA. She was taking a class at BCTC, a psychology class, and she had to watch a movie, which was an older movie, not like black and white old, but she was asked to watch the movie Silence of the Lambs. When Silence of the Lambs first came out, it was a horror movie. I mean, it scared people to death. She was not fazed by it at all. She came back and said, I see worse things on the blacklist, every, once a week in my house. And so the idea that the kind of psychological terror that was going on, or even torture that she might be observing, it just wasn't fazing her. It wasn't scary to her because she'd seen it so much on television. And so I'm wondering, is that something that we should be concerned about?
I mean, kind of, but it also makes sense for certain reasons, like upping the ante to get more attention from an audience. It's more marketable, I guess. We should be concerned about it, but it makes sense why it would gradually increase from a marketing standpoint. In media. Now, if someone were to torture someone because they saw it on TV, that's not all right.
Well, that brings me to my next question. I mean, does that translate? So do we have an increase in violence against women or domestic violence because of what people are watching all the time on television or in movies? Because they're like, oh, well, that's no big deal if I, slap somebody around a little bit. Because they don't really get hurt on TV, and then we forget that in real life, you punch somebody, there's gonna be, it's gonna be more than just snap your head back for a second.
I don't know necessarily violence against women or that, but the violence in teens across the board since 1995 has dramatically decreased, while the sale of violent video games and horror movies and the like have skyrocketed.
Okay, so your statistics show is that violent crimes or
Violent
violence
crimes.
reported by schools?
Violent crimes and victimization.
Okay.
in teens.
And so that's surprising to me because I feel like there are more that is being at least reported more. So, when I was younger, you didn't see reports on the news about, girls having a massive fist fight in the bathroom. I mean, but you see that on the news now.
Do you remember where you found that research?
It was FBI crime statistics.
Well, and kind of to piggyback off of what Ms. Tyler just said, I went to the same high school my sister goes to. She's the same age as you all. She goes to Henry Clay, and there was one day when there was 3 massive fights in the morning, and we had fights because I'm only 25, so we had fights, and they were big, but they had 3 massive fights. One kid who OD'd in a classroom, and one kid who had a gun on campus and a threat of another all before first lunch. So that's why that statistic is surprising to me. So how does that translate? You see what I mean?
Exactly what it's telling you.
I feel like that issue is too big to just pin on one thing to blame media. I feel like that's a home issue or a mental health issue or more than that.
So, and I think you're right. But would you agree that violence on television, movies, and in video games is a factor contributing to an increase in violence in society?
I would say yes, but a lot of, ironically, the media, like the news, uses other violent media as a perfect scapegoat. You can point your finger at a video game developer or a TV producer and say, oh, you're causing violence. And you can't really refute that because they don't have evidence to refute.
Well, let me try to make an analogy. So, heart disease runs in my family. Most of the men in my family died before 35 of a heart attack, and the women made it about 10 more years. So I am genetically predisposed.
Disposed?
Yeah, those are the words I'm trying to get out. To have heart disease. So I can't do anything about my genes, but I can deal with other factors. I can try to exercise and eat right. So there are certain factors we can control. So in society, we may not be able to make everybody a perfect parent. We may not be able to control what's going on in the world and therefore what shows up on my news. But with other factors, is there something like our entertainment? Is there something that we could and should be doing to kind of help decrease the problem?
I guess that goes back to more therapeutic games. But I also think that it's knowing yourself. If you know that you're particularly violent or being influenced, I think you should.
But if a child who
What if
starts to
it's
do
teen?
these things, they're not going to know that they are.
That is the perfect caveat. I think. See, that's the thing. I don't know. I'm a kid who goes to LCA.
Yes.
I wear nice clothes and I would go to church every Sunday. I don't know the answers to these problems.
I'm just wondering, like you said, the media and everyone who is upping the ante and making it more exciting. If it continues that way, then what are your children's, what are they going to be like as parents? You know what I mean? Like if it's just continuously getting harder and harder. So, is there any research on parenting skills? Did they decline?
for your benefit. It's for your child's benefit. Because your prefrontal cortex is not fully developed until you're 21. And
And we're going back to the idea though that every kid has a parent structure at home. So even if you have two parents, maybe both of them work and you have no, like even with Miss Shannon's a great mom, but then her kid went down the street to play Fortnite. So you see what I mean? And I'm not saying that it's totally up to the game developers or blaming them at all, but how would you, there has to be something else in place, right? Or does there? I don't know. Gavin, what do you think?
Oh, you really can't put anything in place there.
At all?
I mean, there's nothing I can think of, really.
the only way to avoid that kind of exposure would be banning all sorts of media in general.
Well, yeah, we're making it harder to.
Yeah, the accessibility is what is so shocking to me and
I mean, we live in an imperfect world, and there's no way we could, like, I remember when I was like 8 or 9, I had a friend who said, oh, you want to come over and play Halo, and I was like, oh, what's that? And I was introduced to first-person shooters, but I personally avoided it, so I felt like I was okay with that kind of thing. But even then, it was so detached from me. I was able to detach myself even at that impression.
And see, that's, I guess, where the difference lies. I have 2 children, and one of mine would be like you, Cole. But the other one he gets in trouble all the time. And I know he would be addicted to it and like that. And that scares me as a parent. So, like, when you think about the difference, you know, even if, like, I'm a Christian, I teach here at LCA. Both my kids go to LCA, but one of them's always going to go for the trouble if he can. And so, like, things like this, the accessibility, like, I know that he doesn't need that, but he's not going to know if he's over at a kid's house. He's going to be like, oh, that looks cool. You know what I mean? So, I guess that's, and I'm not, like, on you about it, but I'm just wondering statistically what you found out about that. Anybody?
It's a tough fact of life, I guess. People
Yes, it
That's
is.
where we keep coming back.
I want to ask you a question. I didn't mean to point. For you as a potential game developer. So if we're gonna say, okay, what kids are gonna do it, or people are gonna play these games, you can't stop it. Is there a way we could change the games to maybe include some consequences for violence, or show a little bit of the other side, not just the fun of blowing somebody away, but maybe, you know, you end up in jail or something, you know, happens to you. Or I read an article once about a dad who was going to allow his son to play these first-person games, but he had to first learn the kind of the Geneva rules of war and had to follow those when he was going to be playing the game.
A couple of games come to mind with those restrictions, particularly like the Fallout games. Like they're rated M and they have gore and all that, but there's a karma system in place where, let's say you kill a whole civilian population, you're gonna be hated and it's gonna make life for you hard for the rest of that playthrough.
Do you think that helps with some of the negative
I mean,
aspects?
it encourages a good moral kind of code of post-apocalyptic wasteland, as ironic as that sounds.
You know.
But, I mean, the same developers, Bethesda and Fallout, and some of the newer games like Skyrim and Fallout 4, they absolutely refuse to let you kill children. You cannot, even cheating, it's extremely hard, and modders have to make mods to allow you to do that, but even then, it still takes work on their part.
Is that a game developer moral code then?
Yeah,
Really?
so I feel like we need more moral people in the industry.
I'll vote for you, Cole. But let me ask you guys this. We talked about the rating system on movies, on video games. A lot of those are industry-led and not government-dictated. And we've all agreed that those are good because it allows parents to have some sort of barometer about whether this game or this movie is safe for my child at the age that they're at, correct? We all kind of agreed that was good. Do we feel that that is still a relevant system given the wide availability of digital media? Because back when there was such a thing as a Blockbuster and you had to go rent movies, they were actually like on cassettes and you had to rent them. I worked at one all through college. I could say, wait a minute, that's a rated R movie. No, you can't rent that. You have to rent this one. It's PG. Or the video game that they were going to pick up. Oh no, wait a minute, that's rated M. You can't get that. Maybe this one. Or if I'm going to the grocery store or to Walmart or something and picking out a game, I can go by the rating system. But everything seems to be available digital now. So unless I'm sitting over my child's shoulder all of the time to make sure that whatever they're downloading or whatever they're picking up, even on YouTube or some other digital streaming device, has that relegated the rating systems to be obsolete now?
I definitely feel like the rating system needs to be revised.
Okay.
Because, I mean, even with movies, PG means practically G now, because every Disney movie is PG, and that actually used to mean something back in the 80s and 90s. But
Jaws is PG. Just throwing that out there.
just, yeah. But as terms of digitally, I play on Xbox and I have a child account. I'm considered a child account because when we created our profiles, there was a parent account and a child account. The parents put me under a child account. I could not buy and enter the game until I was 17.
Okay.
Like, it would not let me digitally purchase it. Even if I had gone out and I bought Microsoft money, it wouldn't let me buy it. I had to get mom to sign on to the parent account to allow me to do that.
What about Netflix?
Netflix is, there's some kids. Netflix and Netflix kids have.
You can have a password.
Yeah, you can have regular Netflix
Someone who's been
password protected.
YouTube does the same thing as well.
There's a YouTube Kids, and a lot of videos nowadays, especially since YouTube as a company is now falling apart, they age gate a lot of their stuff. Like, oh, your account has to be at least 18 to do this. And sure, it could be easy to change your account to be 18, but that falls on the kid. They know they're doing something wrong when they do that.
Can you think of a popular movie that kids watch that doesn't involve violence?
Can we think of it?
Yeah.
It's kind of hard, but
Can you get away from violence?
unless you want to watch like Fantasia or something.
Actually, I think there's some dark parts of
Yeah.
Fantasia.
A little sorcery there.
But, I mean, violence is kind of everywhere, and especially in the Bible, Jesus' crucifixion was brutal and violent, but it had to happen.
Right.
Violence is ever present and always will be in the future. And unless we live in a Big Brother society, we can't avoid it.
You guys talk to me a little bit about specifically TV and radio and how they have tried to reduce violence, not through censorship, but maybe through some of the way that they schedule things. I'm thinking about language in particular. I know it was a hot topic for what you could and couldn't say for a long time. If they were violent, we're talking about TV shows like Blacklist and those sorts of things. Talk to me a little bit about how the media industry has evolved, especially in the last 10 or 15 years, away from the reduction of that. TV, I'm thinking specifically about scheduling.
How they reduced the censorship, or
Okay, tell me what censorship was and how that's changed a little bit.
well, censorship still is like I guess a thing in TV and radio.
Mhm.
All expletives are censored out and all that, but a lot of the other things that were in the past censored, I guess, are definitely in the songs or TV shows. In particular, drugs were censored before.